Hey, good morning, guys. Just sitting around here waiting for my computer to charge. As I often do, I like to sit down and do other work, explore other avenues while my computer charges, because I'll tell you what, I got a Surface that's a real pain in the butt to be working off of it when it is plugged into a wall. Anyway, I got to thinking of something that I really had to get down here and record something for you guys today, because I got a question in my inbox on Tumblr the other morning, and I really had to stop and think about it, and actually ended up DMing this person who sent me this question. So a shame that I didn't post anything to that extent, but you know, we have the opportunity now on YouTube here as I sit down and think about it. The question was, what compelled you to do Varulv as a series, issue to issue, or on the web, versus a big graphic novel? And that's a very good question. I know for the longest time, graphic novels have been very popular. They've been the thing that people want to pick up. They're easier to sell for a larger price. So that's very appealing to a lot of creators. And I think for a lot of people, it's a lot of, well, the audience will be assured that it's done. It's a whole story. They can sit down and read it like a novel. I get that. I dig it 100%. But a strange thing that happens when you do that kind of a thing, you get your feedback also pretty immediately thereafter. And I think that was a big driving force with me doing a series, is to not stop the feedback train. Let me put it to you this way. Come from a background with Death Comic, for example. Because I'm multiple people apparently. Anyway, I was doing Death Comic for the last 2 years, just for, lack of a better word, shits and giggles, and it happened to fall in line with them announcing a new movie, so that was great. I feel like the cool thing about Adult Swim and their properties and Brennan Small is that they're very conducive and open and willing to work with creators who want to do fan art and stuff like that, and they've always just been really supportive of that kind of thing. So it was fun for me. I had a story that I'd wanted to work on a comic. Just so happened COVID was happening. I was in a job that I had a lot of free time, and just felt like I wanted to do it, so I did it. And the neat thing about it that kept me coming back to it was, A, I was getting a lot of feedback on it, and B, that feedback was driving me forward with continuing to do it. Now, granted, some of you, I understand, don't always have faith that you're going to be able to finish a story. I get that. That's especially as a beginning writer or as a writer who has taken a huge undertaking, high concept storytelling like I like to talk about, or a larger series in general. I get that. It's hard to finish. You might not even have an ending. And you want to make sure before you put something out that you do. I get that. But for me, endings are never hard, just the way that I write. And you guys, if you've seen some of my videos on here, you know how I write and that I've got a conclusion pretty much ahead of me. When I do things like that, it's one of the first things I figure out. So that wasn't part of the issue. And indeed, having done Death Comic, part of the issue also wasn't that people would wonder if I could deliver. I was actually pulling a lot of people from my fan work into my original IP, and that's awesome too, because one of the cornerstones of this business model that I really like to tout is that you'll get a story, you'll get a satisfying ending to that story, and you'll enjoy reading it along the way. So keeping that as my precedent, people knowing me for that, and I've said it before, I really think that's one of my bigger selling points of any of the work that I do. So I had that going for me. People would know that if I put out a series, they're just not going to be left hanging. And I didn't always have that. I say all the time how, my mother went through cancer, and, I had a baby, and I never ended up finishing issue 9 of Varulv because of that. That was life circumstances, of course, but now we've come back around, and it's time to finish it, so there's that. But I've established that I do end things, and I do complete story arcs in general more than I have not through the years. So that was another decision to make a series instead of a graphic novel. One of the things that we've missed out on over the years that really working in the fan fiction space has allowed me to appreciate a lot more is the idea of speculation and theorizing and fan theories and other, cool stuff like that. I think a lot of fans feel disconnected from a work when it's over. They sit around and go, okay, well, that was great. And, they'll get online and maybe they'll hype it up for a while. And they'll say, one thing or the other about, how it ended. And that's it. If you have a continuous fan community, however, the fans will come back online and maybe they'll make fan fiction, maybe they'll make fan art, maybe you'll make their own comics of something that you create, and that'll continue. And that fan experience becomes, in and of itself, its own kind of like a folklore, carrying the torch kind of a thing. And I really think that as creators, and if you're going into a business as a creator, you have to consider what your fans are going to take away from the story and how they're going to be able to bring it back in to other readers. That fan stuff is absolutely crucial to getting readership. I don't get readers often who stick around because I did an ad. I get readers because they read it and they invited somebody else to come in and check it out. I get readers because I post little things here and there on Tumblr that catch somebody's interest about maybe one of the characters that I write. And they're like, that's an interesting character. I want to find out more about this situation that they're in and who they are. So they come and read my stuff. It's all pretty much organic if you're going to get people. And I think that fan component is a part of that. Think about it. You get a comic book, right? And you read it month to month. You're going to be speculating in the time it takes for the next issue to come out, knowing the next issue is coming. So it's going to keep you jazzed about, what's coming next. You're going to sit there and think about, what could happen, what's going to come next in the story, if you're going to see any other new characters, if you're going to see an old character come into play. It's really neat, this feedback loop that happens, that only happens when you serialize something, when you are not putting it all out at once. And that takes two things. That takes, having a story come to a satisfying point where you have set up some things that people are going to want to talk about and theorize. And the other thing it takes is knowing that the next issue is coming. So that first one gets you motivated to talk about it, get your fans motivated to talk about it. You as a fan would want to talk about it, I'm sure. If you got an interesting plot point in your favorite issue of whatever that month, you're going to tell your friends about it who like the series too, and you're going to, speculate and think about what could happen next. The next thing is knowing that the next issue is coming keeps you excited about reading it. I know a lot of people get discouraged when they know something is ending, and I feel for that. I do think things need to come to an end, but part of that with a series is you can have an ending to one part of a story and you can start a whole other one. And it's a really neat thing to have that, even if you're not doing something episodic. And again, this is a channel we talk about, long form fiction, high fiction, and, the higher concept storytelling requires you go the distance with something. It's not a jog. It's a long haul. It's a long distance run, basically. So when you have that kind of stuff set up, people will talk about it. They'll get on forums. They'll get excited about it. And I think that that's stuff that you don't necessarily get with a graphic novel. I think about Game of Thrones, for example. Game of Thrones is, when we were reading it at first, a very well written book. We were happy to wait for George R.R. Martin to come up with the next ones. And it took him forever. Same thing I've said with Battle Chasers. Joe Mad has been on record as saying, I don't necessarily remember ever saying that I was going to keep to a schedule. And we didn't care that he did, for the most part. We'd complain about it every now and again. When did that happen? Because we wanted it so bad. It wasn't because, we were just mad at it. It's like, oh, this is frustrating. I bought into this. No, we wanted to see it. That's why we complained, because we wanted more of it. And it's just Joe's way of doing art, and the, family obligations that he had and the work obligations that he had didn't mean that he could just churn that out every now and again. he had to really sit down to it, and it took time, and when it came out, it was amazing. And that's what, we waited for. So again, that's why I do serializations. I think people will wait for something if it's good enough. I think people will, look forward to something if they have a good setup for them to be waiting for. I think they look forward to stuff like that. And again, I think that gets lost when you do just a single one-off graphic novel and you've got it and they'll talk about it and it's great and that's the end. I understand if you want to do that, that's fine, but for me, serialization incorporates fan readership, that kind of input so much that I can't ignore it, and that's part of the fun of doing it to me, is to get that feedback, to talk to people, to see what they're thinking, to figure out, to see if they can figure out what I'm putting down. And I think that a lot of why I do anything comes back to, is it a good story for my readers? And that's the number one way you can tell. Are they talking about it? And I love that if they do. Plus, I think another thing with serials for that reason, because you get the speculation, the theories, the whatnot, the fan art. Every now and again we get an original character. I just had a couple people make original characters of my series, and I was checking them out on DeviantArt. I love that kind of thing. This stuff incorporates the fan component so much that they consider themselves a part of the story then, and I don't think that there's a better way that you can have an advocate for your story than for people to be 100% fans and feel that they too are a part of it. And I think that serials just in general allow that to happen and blossom more naturally. So anyway, guys, that's all I wanted to say for today. If you have any reservations about making a serial, please consider what I've said here. Serialized comic books, serialized series of any kind, heck, videos, novels, fiction, whatever you got, there's still a market for it. And I think it's almost an untapped resource these days. And I think that you could, if you're in it for the long haul anyway, see a lot of success by serializing your works. Give it a shot. Let me know if you do. Always appreciate those likes and subscribes if you want to. Check out Varulv at varulvcomic.com. That's VARULV comic.com. And I will catch you all later. Bye-bye.